And with the second episode already of the final season, we get to see how far Natsu and Lucy have come, and possibly, I would say even the best part of this episode was the entire Wendy and Charlotte, just little moment with Sharia, like all three of them just having a wonderful moment together. But Wendy and Sharia, like, definitely I felt like stole a lot of the spotlight from this episode, especially when you get to see old faces returning, and quite a big tease, I would say, near the end of this episode. So, a few things to talk about this one, and god, this is such improvement over the manga, like, especially with, like, the scale of, like, how they did things, because, especially with this episode, and I knew that this, like, chapter was coming, like, when they were gonna annotate it, because I remember this was one I ranted about, and I was like, I don't like what they did with it, like, what the fuck, they one-shotted, like, a knowable villain that was, like, actually a serious, like, opponent back in the day, and I know this was supposed to be used as a sort of the grand scale. I was like, this is how powerful Natsu and his gang has become now, is that, like, even someone, like, on the scale of Blue Note can be on a tear. And to be fair, the way how, like, I will say the anime showcases more, like, the power that, like, Natsu has become is a little bit better, because in the manga it's just like, oh, here's just a normal fire dragon roar, and that's it, and it takes him down. But in the scale, it's like, it is imploding from the other side of, like, you can see it from, like, a mile or two away, this blast hitting him, and it's like, even Blue Note says, like, a couple of off lines that wasn't in the manga, I believe, where it's like, this kid's actually for real now. He's, like, seeming, like, how they're describing it is that he is seemingly, like, where Guild Arts was back in the day. Like, that's what they're, like, implying right now. So let's go and talk about that, because, oh boy, did we know that these guild members are gonna be fucking at, like, when they come in, and it's like, oh, surprise and all that, they've been taking out this guild. Like, mainly just Wendy and Sharia. Like, you see a little bit of Lamia scale, like, doing their own little thing, taking them on, but, like, honestly, Wendy and Sharia, like, out of the two, when they took Happy and Charlotte, were just doing it by themselves, and you do get a little bit of the showcase of those two, like, doing what, especially, like, what, with the past couple of, like, at least a year or so that they've been there together, and it's like they've been spending time, and they've actually been working together, not only as just the Sky Sisters, like, on the stage, but they're actually been, like, doing, like, quests together, and you can see, like, some of the stuff that they're coming up with. And one thing is, like, they actually put a little bit of, a lot of recap, because, about Sharia, and especially about notable things from Season 1 and Season 2, so Tenrajima was mentioned a lot, like, Tartarus was mentioned quite a bit, and then especially, the one I understood, especially, was due to the fact of, like, hey, Sharia is a character that we haven't seen in a very long time. Like, if you've been in the anime, she has, I don't even think she really reappeared in, like, the filler or anything. I think she's, like, maybe mentioned once or twice, or, like, her name is like, comes up every now and then, but you don't really get to see her, like, with a lot of the other characters that were kind of, like, thoroughly mentioned throughout all the other arcs, and especially Tartarus had Sabretooth come back. Like, again, like, Lamia scale is like a guild, whereas, like, they barely kind of get a lot of the screen time shown, because, like, there are so many, like, characters in this series to be mentioned up, but they go through, like, the Grand Magic Games and how they kind of, like, kind of became friends at that point, and then even as well, like, you even see, like, what kind of happened to them, like, back in the day, whereas, like, how they met Blue Note and other people on there, where basically Natsu gets involved. He's like, how dare you and all that, like, you take Happy away from me. They end up, like, Wendy and Sharia end up, like, fighting Blue Note, who is technically the guild's leader. It's not that the Orochi thin guy, it's like, he's more like the big guy that he keeps addressing him as, like, sensei and, like, everything, so he's kind of like the pretty much the pseudo head for the most part. It's just that other dude just does all the ordering and, like, all the monster unleashing. But I mean, Natsu comes in, he dragon roars him, takes care of that fucker, no, like, no question asked. Like, it was like, Blue Note is completely done. There was one comical scene, it's like, alright, who's next? And then they just hold up a white flag and they're like, can we please go home? Interesting enough, Lucy, the fact that if you haven't seen the Dragon Cry movie, this is the first time you ever see her do this form, which is Star Dress. This is a new form that she's learned during her training, like, throughout the year, that she's able to encase herself not only by summoning a celestial spirit, but she can actually use a part of that magic herself to enhance her abilities. Although they kind of use it comically for the first time you see it, you do get to see her using Leo, and you can see, like, honestly, I really do like the design. I like the fact of, like, the whole Star Dress form. I actually like a lot of them, like, they have, and especially in, like, Dragon Cry, they added some that we hadn't seen before, so overall, it's like, this is a nice thing that Lucy needed. She needed an additional sort of, like, power just to give herself, like, a little bit of an edge around the battle. So I'm happy, at least, like, she finally got that. And the fact that we get, although it's not the first time I got to see it animated, like, again, like, Dragon Cry, you do see this form as well there. But I'm happy, at least, that we're finally at that point in here. And even as well, when they're mentioning things like, yeah, all those things that we fought in Tenrojima, huh? Oh yeah, Acnologia. Don't worry, Natsu hasn't forgotten, as he's like holding like his little bandages on there. You see someone there at the end of there, like in a form that looks familiar, although it's not a dragon. I mean, who knows whether that is and all that. I mean, you did see him in Dragon Cry as well, and you know who he is. So yeah, I'll just say enjoy. And overall, like, we have Wendy and Sherry's last scene, which is like a actual very enjoyable moment, I would say, whereas like those two kind of like have a little talk, and this is the first time Wendy's really had someone like especially close to her for that year, because you know, I think a lot of people do forget about this about Wendy. Wendy's a child. She is a little girl, and she's being forced into battlefield every time, and everyone without a word just left her. Like, they didn't really think about like everything, like Margaret, like, although Margaret, like, he probably did it with a heavy heart, it's like everyone else just left and did their own thing, and they just kind of like didn't go and say, hey, what do you want to do, Wendy? Like, where, like with this scenario, do you want to come with us? Like, Ursa or none of them did that. They had their own agendas to like fill up, and I know some of them had personal reasons to separate from the others, but it's like, yeah. And she went to Lamia Scale and with Charlotte, and they took care of her, and like especially with Sherry, like treated her like a sister to her, and it was this nice moment. It's like, look, you need to go back to those. That is your family at the end of the day, and that doesn't mean that we can't stop hanging out or anything. Like, she fully expresses that she loves Wendy with all her heart and all that. And, like, again, it's like a sister kind of love and all that. I know a lot of people try to pair them because there's not a pairing for Wendy and all that, but so people just put it to Jerry, and I'm like, oh, they're sisters though. Like, I like that though. I like the fact that she's just got someone that she's fully like close to, and I think it was a nice moment overall. And the episode ends with like Lucy mentioning as like they're all like, as like we get to see with Jura and like all those guys, and it's like, oh yeah, go and have fun, guys, and all that. Oh, by the way, if with Leon, he's like, get my Raz once you find him, huh? And then Lucy goes, oh yeah, I forgot, yeah, I hadn't found any more information about Gray. I wonder what's going on. And they end off the episode because, of course, they have to end it with my girl, where they're saying, we're going to go to this rain village next. And it's like, where apparently it doesn't stop raining. And then you're like, huh, I wonder why. And you see her right at the very end, completely depressed. It is Juvia. So, going to be ending off there. And now we begin, and I shit you not, we now begin the worst arc in Fairy Tail. I shit you not, because of what the next episode, and we'll be talking a little bit about more of that in the preview when we get to that point. Overall, like, these first two episodes returning are like again, I can tell the improvement. Again, some animation stuff as well in this episode. Like, there was a really good little bit, like some parts of it were like really, I did notice some stiffness like here and there. The one I noticed the most was Charlotte when she came into the battlefield, which you get to see like Charlotte's no longer like just flying Wendy about. It's like, I can actually fight too. She does like this like crazy flip and like does this like, I think it's like moon wheel or whatever it was called, and just like smashes down somebody. Again, they're grunts, but it's like, considering that the Exceeds, with the exception of Panther, have like never done anything apart from once or twice, it is like, and it's not really they're meant for combat, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. The fact that they did something like that, I kind of like the fact that overall that this was something on them. Again, like, with these episodes that are coming up and everything that like clearly like how the first few episodes are being handled with the pacing and everything, it is kind of very much implied that we kind of know, and we want to get these episodes done. I have to remind you, I mentioned Avatar, they're not in the fucking opening. They're not in the opening whatsoever. That is how little of a fuck that I can tell that the studio gave a shit for any of these characters. So, I will say this, do not be surprised when I talk about these guys, like, and they will be still the same rants. I will probably hate them less in the anime because it will be done faster. But again, it's like the return of like Fairy Tail, like with like how a lot of it's treated, like with getting back the gang back, especially with stuff, and you can see that it's going to involve Grey. So yeah, there's going to be a lot of things involving with some characters with this arc now. So have fun with that. Overall, I want to know what you guys think about these little 2 episodes with this little mini arc, I should say, of like with this getting Lamia Scale, getting the Wendy back. So overall, that's all for me though. So thank you as always for watching, and I'll see you guys though next time.